I shouldn't have lingered. That's what I kept telling myself as I sat at her kitchen table, fingers tracing the rim of a mug that had gone cold an hour ago. But I couldn't move. Something in the air held me there, heavy and quiet, like the pause before a confession. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, her hair a little untidy from pushing it back too many times. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly, marking every second I hadn't found the courage to say what I really wanted to say. Her name was Claire, 46, though the number always felt irrelevant when I looked at her. There was nothing older about the way she carried herself, except maybe in her eyes. They had that careful stillness, like someone who'd seen storms before and learned not to get caught in them. I was 24. Too young, maybe. Too eager, definitely. That's why I kept talking, filling the silence with words she didn't ask for. You don't even like that brand of coffee, I said, nodding at the half-empty bag on her counter. Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. You notice everything, don't you? I shrugged, feeling my ears warm. Not everything. Just you. That pulled her gaze to me, sharp for a second, then softer. She looked away quickly, reaching for her glass of water though she barely touched it. A small deflection. I was starting to learn her language of almosts, things she wouldn't admit outright, but didn't deny either. The kitchen light buzzed faintly above us, flickering once before steadying. I wondered if she noticed the same way I did, every detail sharpening when I was near her, like the world itself wanted me to pay attention. You should go, she said finally, her voice low, not unkind. Do you want me to? I asked. Her arms unfolded, then crossed again tighter. That's not the question. I leaned back, forcing a laugh that sounded too thin. Then what is? Claire didn't answer. Instead, she moved closer, slow steps until she was just across the table from me. My heart thudded like I was still a teenager sneaking into places I shouldn't be. She studied me in silence, as if searching for something I couldn't name. You're too young for this, she murmured. For what? For whatever you think you want. Her tone wasn't cruel, just weary, as though she'd rehearsed that line before. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I knew exactly what I wanted, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I reached out, barely brushing her hand where it rested on the table. She didn't pull away. That small permission cracked something open in me. I leaned forward, speaking before I could lose the nerve. One kiss, I said softly. That's all I'm asking. She laughed then, a quick, startled sound, shaking her head. One kiss won't change anything. The way she said it, too fast, too certain, betrayed her. Her voice carried the same tremor my hands did. I held her gaze, steady this time, no hesitation. Try me and see. For a moment, the room stilled completely. Her breathing slowed, her lips parting slightly as if she might actually let me. The distance between us felt thin, breakable. And then, the doorbell rang. Her eyes snapped toward the sound, and the spell shattered. My chest tightened as she drew back, her hand slipping from beneath mine. Neither of us moved right. The doorbell rang again, sharper this time. Claire moved first, almost too quickly, brushing past me with a muttered, "Stay here." I stayed, but my pulse was still hammering as I listened to her footsteps. The sound of the lock turning, a brief exchange at the door, just her neighbor dropping off a misdelivered package. Nothing dramatic, but the way she lingered at the doorway, shoulders squared, told me she needed the pause, needed space to gather herself. When she came back, she set the small cardboard box on the counter without meeting my eyes. Sorry, where were we? I almost said it, right before you almost kissed me, but I bit my tongue. Instead, I just shrugged, fiddling with the mug in front of me. She finally sat across from me again, but there was more distance this time, her chair angled slightly away. You shouldn't be here this late, she said. You always say that. I replied too quickly. She let out a breath, half a sigh, half a laugh. And you never listen. Her tone softened, though, and I caught a glimpse of something in her eyes that wasn't just disapproval. Weariness, maybe, or fear. I wanted to break through it. So I asked, "Can I ask you something personal?" Claire hesitated. Depends. You wear your ring sometimes you don't. What? Her hand twitched almost involuntarily toward her bare finger. She pulled it back into her lap. That's not a fair question. Neither is telling me I'm too young for something you won't even name, I said. My voice came out more defensive than I intended. She looked at me then, long enough that I almost regretted pushing. I was married, she said finally. For 19 years. He left. Found someone younger. I stopped wearing the ring when it started feeling like a joke. The words landed heavy between us. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. After a moment, she added, softer, "You're half his age. Do you see how that looks?" I leaned forward. "I don't care how it looks." She shook her head, a small, pained smile tugging at her lips. "You say that now. You'll care eventually." The silence that followed stretched, not uncomfortable exactly, but waited. I thought about telling her everything. The nights I stayed awake replaying her voice in my head, the way I caught myself waiting for her texts, the reason I kept finding excuses to be near her. But I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I said quietly, "You're the first person who's ever really seen me." Her expression shifted. Something flickered there, raw and unguarded. She reached across the table before she could stop herself, her fingers brushing against mine. The contact was brief, tentative, but it lingered like heat even after she pulled back. Neither of us spoke. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence, the only witness to a truth we weren't ready to admit. But her touch, God, her touch said everything we couldn't. Away. The bell rang again, louder this time, insistent. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. Whoever was at that door had no idea they'd just stepped into the middle of something that should have never started, and maybe couldn't be stopped. The brush of her fingers hadn't left me. Hours later, even as I walked home, my hand still buzzed where hers had rested. But I didn't get far. My phone buzzed, her name lighting up the screen. A single message. "Did you lock the back door when you left?" I stared at it. She could have checked herself. She just wanted an excuse. I wanted an excuse too. I texted back, "I'll come check." 10 minutes later, I was standing at her doorstep again, rain beginning to spit from a restless sky. She looked surprised when she opened the door, though I couldn't tell if it was at me or at herself for letting me back in. "You didn't have to," you texted. I cut in, shaking rain from my hair. She stepped aside wordlessly, letting me in. The kitchen smelled faintly of chamomile. The back door was locked, of course. We both knew it. "You're impossible," she muttered, but there was no real anger in it. I leaned against the counter, watching her fuss with the kettle. "You wanted me back here." Her hand paused on the mug, just for a second. Then she forced a laugh. "Don't flatter yourself." "Then tell me to leave," I said, voice low. She didn't. Instead, the doorbell rang, again. We both froze. Her face went pale as she hurried to the door, pulling it open only a crack this time. A man's voice carried through, casual, familiar. My stomach sank at the word Claire. I couldn't see him, but I heard enough, her ex stopping by, apparently, to talk about paperwork. His tone was too comfortable, too practiced, like someone who still thought he had a claim. She kept her voice polite, but clipped. "It's not a good time." "Why? You've got someone here," he asked, half joking, half probing. My throat tightened. "No," she said quickly. Too quickly. The lie stung, though I knew why she said it. I was just the kid in her kitchen. No label, nothing to defend. Still, something inside me twisted. Finally, she shut the door on him, leaning against it for a moment before turning back. Her eyes flicked to me, and for the first time, she looked almost ashamed. "I told you," she whispered. "This is complicated." I stepped closer, closing the space she'd tried so hard to maintain. "Then let it be complicated. Stop pretending you don't." Her voice cracked, sharp but fragile. But she didn't move away. The rain outside thickened, pounding against the windows. The silence stretched between us, electric. My hand lifted, almost without permission, hovering near her cheek. She didn't flinch. For one suspended second, we were close enough to fall. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She jolted, stepping back, the spell snapping clean. I dropped my hand, pulse roaring. She grabbed her phone, glanced at the screen, and locked it again too quickly. Whatever was on it, she wasn't ready to share. We stood there, caught between the storm outside and the one brewing in here. Neither of us willing to say the one thing that might undo everything. The storm outside didn't let up. Rain hammered the windows, the kind of downpour that makes you believe the world wants you trapped inside. We sat in the half-dark, the only light the dim lamp in the living room, shadows falling uneven across her face. I couldn't take my eyes off her. She kept pretending to scroll her phone, but her grip on it was too tight, knuckles pale. Finally, I said, "Who was it?" Her head snapped up. "What?" "The text. The one you didn't want me to see." She froze, then forced a scoff. It's none of your business. I leaned forward, my voice sharper than I meant. It is my business if it keeps pulling you away from me every time we. I cut myself off, but the words hung there, raw. Her eyes flickered, like she'd been caught. Then she laughed, bitter and low. God, you sound like a jealous teenager. Maybe I am, I shot back. But at least I'm honest about what I want. That made her go still. Completely still. Then, after a long pause. And what exactly is it you think you want from me? I swallowed hard, the words burning up before I could stop them. You. Silence. The rain filled it, relentless. She stood abruptly, pacing the room, one hand running through her hair. You don't understand what you're saying. I've already lived a life. Marriage, heartbreak, raising a kid. I don't get to start over like some college romance. That's not what this is, I said, standing too. I don't care about the math of our ages, or what your neighbors think, or what your ex thinks he still owns. I care about you, and I know you feel it too. Her breath hitched. She turned, and the look in her eyes, God, it was everything. Anger, longing, fear. You think this is simple? She whispered. You think I can just give in? Do you have any idea what it would cost me? I stepped closer, close enough that I could see the tremor in her lip, the way her chest rose unevenly. Then stopped thinking about the cost for 1 second. Her eyes dropped to my mouth, just for a heartbeat. The room pulsed with it, years of her regret colliding with my longing. The distance between us narrowed, and I swear I could feel the warmth of her breath mixing with mine. Her hand lifted, hovering near my face, but not quite touching. My own hand twitched, wanting to take hers, to close that unbearable gap. We were right there, on the edge of something we couldn't undo. And then, a sharp knock at the door. We both flinched, breaking apart as if burned. Her eyes widened, panic flooding them. She whispered, barely audible, "Don't move." My pulse roared. Whoever was out there was about to change everything. The knock at the door came again, louder this time, impatient. I could feel the storm outside pounding against the walls, but inside, the tension was worse, tighter than any thunderclap. Claire pressed a finger to her lips. Go upstairs. Now. Upstairs. I whispered, bewildered. Please, she said, voice urgent. Trust me. I hesitated, watching her fumble for something in the drawer. My pulse raced. She returned with her phone, staring at it like it had just delivered the world's worst news. What's? She didn't answer. Instead, she hurried to the door and opened it a crack, peering out. A man stood there, not her ex, but someone I recognized, her son's father, Jonathan. He hadn't been in her life for years. And yet, here he was. Claire, he said, voice low but sharp. We need to talk. She swallowed visibly, lips tight. I can't right now. Not with, her eyes flicked toward me upstairs. Jonathan's gaze caught mine through the doorway, and my stomach sank. He didn't need words to know something was off. He's here. Jonathan's voice tightened. Yes, she admitted. Her back stiffened, shoulders square. But it's nothing. Nothing you need to worry about. Jonathan's eyes narrowed. Nothing? You never said you'd have him here. Claire's hand trembled as she held the door. She glanced back at me, silent, pleading. My chest tightened. The unspoken truth hung in the air like smoke. She hadn't told him, and she wasn't sure if she could. I wanted to leave, to disappear, but something rooted me in place, wanting to see her through this, wanting to protect her, even if it meant being discovered. Jonathan stepped closer, voice low but hard. Claire, if you're hiding something, I need to know. Don't lie to me. Her eyes filled with a mixture of shame and defiance. I'm not hiding anything from you, she said. I can't. Please, just leave it. I clenched my fists, fury and fear coiling together. My mind raced. Years of restraint, all the careful dancing we'd done around this impossible attraction. What if it ended now, exposed in a heartbeat? Jonathan's eyes flicked to me again. A subtle recognition? Or suspicion? I couldn't tell. Claire suddenly slammed the door, leaning against it with all her weight. She exhaled in a shuddering rush. I can't. Not like this. Not tonight. I felt my chest tighten, like someone had shoved my lungs down. She looked at me, eyes wet, lips parted as though she wanted to say everything, yet nothing came out. For a long moment, we simply stared at each other. Rain hammered the windows. The storm outside was nothing compared to what was happening inside. The mix of desire, fear, guilt, and longing that refused to stay contained. And then, quietly, almost too quiet to hear over the storm. I shouldn't want this, she whispered. I stepped closer, slow, careful. Neither should I. But the truth was, we both did. And just like that, the impossible became inevitable. The storm raged outside, relentless, but inside the apartment, it was quiet. Too quiet. Almost like the world had stepped back to watch us unravel. Claire leaned against the counter, arms crossed, trying to make herself smaller. Her eyes were bright, glistening with unshed tears. I stepped closer, heart hammering, not sure whether I was about to destroy everything or finally break through. I can't. I shouldn't, she said, voice trembling, each word measured, careful. I shook my head. Stop saying that. Please. Not now. Her hand lifted, hovering near mine again, the space between us charged with everything we'd been holding back for weeks. I reached slowly, cupping her cheek. She didn't flinch, but her breath hitched, a quiet surrender in that one simple reaction. I've spent years building walls, she whispered. Walls for a reason. You're too intense, too alive. You make me feel things I thought I was done feeling. I don't care, I said softly, voice low enough that she could feel the truth vibrating through it. I don't care about walls, or past mistakes, or what anyone thinks. I care about you. Only you. Her lips parted, as if to respond, but no sound came out. I saw the hesitation, the fear, the longing, all of it mirrored in her eyes. Do you know what it's like? She asked, voice cracking. To feel seen, really seen, by someone you shouldn't want? To feel alive and terrified at the same time. I do, I whispered. And I've been waiting for this. Waiting for you to stop running, just for one moment. She drew in a shaky breath, then closed the distance herself. Our foreheads touched, a fragile bridge between caution and surrender. The electricity in that proximity was unbearable. You're reckless, she murmured. And maybe I'm reckless too. I smiled softly against her hair. Then we're even. For a long moment, nothing happened. Time stretched, heavy and sticky. And yet, in that pause, we both understood. Everything had shifted. The fear, the guilt, the longing. They were all still there, but they didn't matter as much anymore. The storm outside softened to a drizzle. Rain tapped lightly against the windows, like applause for the moment we finally let ourselves be human, flawed, and honest. She pulled back slightly, searching my face. What now? I shrugged, heart in my throat. Now we see where this goes. Together or not, we'll figure it out. Her fingers lingered in mine. I could feel the weight of unspoken promises, the fragility of what we'd just crossed. And somehow, that uncertainty made it perfect. We stood there, breathing each other in, connected yet separate, knowing the choice to take this further, or to stop, was ours alone. A distant siren wailed outside. Somewhere, life carried on. But in this small, storm-battered apartment, everything was suspended. The world didn't matter. Only her, only me, only this fragile, dangerous, beautiful moment. And even if the next step wasn't clear, morning came slow. The storm had passed, leaving streets wet and shiny, clouds peeling back to reveal pale sunlight. I stayed on the couch longer than usual, listening to the quiet hum of her apartment, the faint smell of chamomile lingering in the air. Claire appeared in the doorway, hair damp from a quick shower, wearing one of my old hoodies she must have found in the closet. She paused, hands curled slightly around the fabric, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. The tension from last night had shifted, softened, but not gone. You stayed, she said finally, voice small but amused. I couldn't leave, I admitted, shrugging like it explained everything. It didn't, of course. Nothing ever could. She walked over slowly, bridging the distance that had felt insurmountable yesterday. Her hand found mine without asking. I didn't pull away. I don't know what this is, she whispered, or where it's going. But I want to try. The words hung in the air, fragile and perfect. I smiled, feeling something like relief, like victory, like fear all at once. Then we'll try, I said. Together. We didn't kiss immediately. Not yet. We didn't need to. The closeness, the brush of fingers, the shared glances, the tiny smiles, spoke louder than any sudden, dramatic gesture. For the first time, we could just exist, the storm outside behind us, the future uncertain but ours to face. She laughed softly, shaking her head. You're still reckless, she said. Yeah, I said, grinning. But so are you. We shared a quiet moment, watching sunlight creep across the floor, the air warm with the unspoken acknowledgement of what had changed. We had crossed impossible lines, navigated fear and desire, and arrived somewhere fragile and honest. Claire rested her head on my shoulder. I wrapped an arm around her, feeling the weight of everything we'd carried. The past, the regrets, the longing, all of it balanced here, now, in this improbable new beginning. She lifted her head slightly. Do you ever think about the risks? All the time, I admitted. But some things are worth it. Her smile was small, a little shy, but real. And in that smile, I found hope. Hope that we could navigate the messiness, the impossible age gap, the whispers of the past, and still find a way to belong to each other. We didn't know what tomorrow would bring. We didn't know if the world would approve, or if life would toss more storms at us. But in this moment, it didn't matter. We had each other, flawed and human, tangled in longing and courage and the quiet thrill of possibility. I squeezed her hand. Whatever comes next, we'll face it. Together. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. The sunlight grew warmer, spilling through the windows, and the apartment felt like home. Not just a place, but a space we had carved for ourselves, built from honesty and desire, and something dangerously beautiful. As she leaned against me, I whispered softly, more to the world than to her. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out. Together. And in that moment, the impossible felt possible. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? We had crossed the line together.